Right, I think we're good. Are we live?
Are we here?
We are live. Okay, welcome internet. My name's Chase Davis, one of the owners of Cardboard Corner Cafe, coming early January 2021. That's the plan. And tonight we're going to be doing GM Zone of Truth. We're going to be talking with our lovely guests here, just about basically about anything tabletop RPG related. We're going to be kind of specifically targeting maybe newer GMs that might not have as much experience under the belt. We have some questions that we've gathered that we're going to be asking. At any point during the stream, if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring on there, and we'll get them asked to our guests here. Speaking of guests, let's get everybody introduced. Laura, do you want to start off?
Sure. My name is Laura Crosston, and I have been playing for more than 40 years, been GMing for about 4. My main kind of focus is as a storyteller. I come to this as a storyteller first. That's my background as a writer and storyteller. So that's kind of my experience with jamming.
Awesome. Glad to have you on, Laura. Ben?
Sure. My name is Ben Lefke. I'm pretty new to tabletop gaming. I've mostly run games that fall under the Powered by the Apocalypse system. So that includes Monster of the Week, that I ran for about a year and a half. And then I've started running a fellowship campaign that I've been doing for about 6 months now. And then I play in a D&D 5e game that I've been playing for about 2 years as well. And it's great. I'm pretty new, but I like it a lot.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. Laura, did you see the? Are we good on the?
I did see the note. I don't know. I made an adjustment. We'll see if that helps.
Perfect. I guess as we go along, we'll see if we're good to go there. Danny, who are you? Why are you here?
That is the question of my times. Yeah, I'm Danny. I am a GM. Been doing it for a long time. About 3 decades now, GMing, and yeah, I write for Callus Game Labs a little bit here and there, and I am also doing stuff content management over at Rem Alternus. And we're just, we're doing a lot of streaming stuff and everything on our channel. And yeah, that's, and we just started a live stream on GMing for Shadowrun Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock CST. And we're doing a run through, a campaign style run through of the Chicago Missions arc for anybody who is interested in that kind of thing.
So fun. Awesome. So is that like the season 8? Is that right?
5 through 8.
5 through 8, okay.
And instead of taking 4 hours to go through a module, we'll take 4 weeks of 3-hour sessions each to go through a module.
Oh, wow.
So actually taking our time to really explore the content.
That's awesome. That sounds super exciting. I'm going to tune in for that. All right, guys, let's kick it off here. Just to get some background, just a little bit more about yourselves here. What is your favorite game to play versus your favorite game to run? Danny, do you want to start off with this?
Wow, this is not an easy question.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's not.
There's so many factors that kind of go into it, especially playing. So my favorite game to play is any game that I get to play. So if I get to play, I'm like, this is great. I get to be playing one game at any time, right? The rest of the time it's all GMing. So currently I am playing in a Palladium system, which is for those. They do Rifts was one of their big titles. They used to own the Robotech license for RPGs back in the day, and it's kind of a clunky system, but it's really imaginative and there's just a lot in it. So that's what I'm kind of playing in right now. For DMing or GMing, I'm gonna say D&D 5e actually at this point. It's just it's such a well put together system. I mean, I know a lot of people are angry that they took out, so much stuff, but really there's still a lot of breadth, but it's so easy to just work with and manage. So you can actually just sit down and kind of get through and start playing it right away. And I really like that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about D&D is that it's a great system, and you can just kind of pick it up and go with it. There's a lot, you can just do whatever you need to do really in it, and there's rules for it. Ben, what about you? Favorite game to play versus favorite game to run?
Yeah, so really the only game I've had a chance to play in for like a whole campaign has been D&D 5e. So that's just been, it's just a system like you guys say, like it's classic, it's been around for a long time. I always love if we run into something crazy, I can, after that session I can go look it up and all of a sudden like I've got 30 tabs open looking through wikis, like there's just so much content out there. I can just really get sucked into all the lore and all the history, and it feeds my insatiable appetite to just kind of delve in and kind of go through all the content that's there. And then I haven't run a ton of systems like I talked about, but I think my favorite so far that I've ran has been Monster of the Week. I really love horror as a genre, and Monster of the Week is very much a love letter to just horror in general. It's a kind of a crazy action-focused cinematic system, so I like that when I run it, I never know what's going to happen. It's really based around kind of creating a monster and setting it loose in a setting. So every time I imagine what the big finale is going to be like, I've been totally wrong. So I love kind of playing to see what my players are going to do, what's going to happen. It's a mystery to me as much as it is to everyone else. So it's a lot of fun.
That does sound like a lot of fun, actually. I've never played
I'm
Monster.
looking it up right now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Man, that sounds like a lot of fun. Laura, what about for you? Favorite game to play versus favorite game to run?
For me, playing is either going to be Shadowrun or it's going to be Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Those two are real close, right next to each other. I love both of them have an attitude of, hey, if you can do it, let's see it, man. roll your dice and let's see it, right? And then to run, I don't know. I tend to run everything with a sort of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay aesthetic, that grim dark fantasy. When I run D&D, and I do like 5e a lot, when I run D&D, I tend to run it with that grittier aesthetic where magic isn't available around every street corner, right? You can't just go in and buy a potion of healing to fix whatever stupid thing it is you just did. So I tend to run it with a little bit of a harsher and more gritty, realistic aesthetic, but I really like 5e from a rules perspective. I think it really does fix a lot of the problems that earlier editions had in terms of accessibility and being able to manage it. So I probably D&D 5e, but with my own twist to it.
Yeah, that's great. I think there's a lot of cool mixtures you can do with rules, right? There's a lot of rules for pretty much everything, but it gives you freedom to do what you need to do to make it
they don't get in the way.
Players. Yeah, exactly. If something's fun, then just do it, right? I mean,
Yep.
Laura, we got a question in the chat for you. What edition of Shadowrun?
To play, I gotta be honest with you, whatever you'll let me play, you'll play. I started with 5, so I didn't play before that. So I can't speak to what happened before 5, but I played with Danny, actually. And I have not tried 6 yet. I was supposed to, and then I ended up having to reschedule and didn't get to play in the game. But 5th edition is what I played. But if you tell me I get to roll a bunch of D6s to do stupid stuff, 100% I'm in. It doesn't matter. That's, yes, 100% yes. Where do I have to be and when? Because I'm there, and I got all the dice. We're good. So.
That's great. Okay, so we're gonna get into some newish GM questions that we've kind of gathered. So I'm gonna ask them as the from the point of view as them. So, so let's say I have a really good idea for a campaign, but I hear a lot that as a new GM that maybe I should start with a module. So what are your guys' thoughts on starting on modules versus starting on maybe content that you want to dream up yourself? Ben, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, so I have actually only run custom content, but I steal a lot. I think kind of the downsides of doing everything yourself is that it tends to be a lot more work. It can be difficult as someone that's new to create an encounter that is dangerous but fair, to try to kind of balance everything. And it's hard to know as you're kind of putting things together whether you have enough, whether you have the right things. So what I kind of have done as I've kind of gotten started as a DM is I've found content that's kind of similar to what I'm trying to make, and I kind of steal bits and pieces of it, or I use it as a reference. It's something that I try to imitate, and when you kind of look off of material like that, it helps you know, am I missing certain story beats? Do I need something here? You kind of know what kind of a completed campaign should look like. And you can kind of use it as a reference for yourself. So I haven't played through a ton of pre-written modules myself, but I definitely use them as a kind of a template for myself, so that I know, hey, what I've put together kind of matches what seems to be working for people, without being completely off on my own, and just overwhelmed by kind of that the amount of work that puts on you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just having the having the content there, the modules there as a guideline to create your own things is really good, because you want a complete story, right? You want you want something that makes sense and it's cohesive.
Yeah, sometimes it helps to just know what works and what rules there are, and whether then you can kind of feel when it's okay to maybe break them or maybe do something different. It definitely helps to use something as reference.
Absolutely. Laura, what are your thoughts on new GMs starting out, modules versus using your own content that you want to create?
I am a big fan of the module first approach, not because I want to stifle anyone's creativity, but kind of to what Ben was saying. I think that when you look at modules, especially well-written models, and I will say there's a big difference between just, sort of generic crap modules. No, I'll just say it. There are some truly crappy modules out there, and for those, they're not useful in any way. But the stuff that the well-written ones, the well-crafted ones, they show you pacing. They'll include, like, you'll be able to tell about how much you're supposed to get through in a session. They will teach you, okay, so a fight of this magnitude followed by fights of this magnitude are going to take about this much time, right? They teach you pacing. They teach you continuation of action. They teach you cadence. They teach you a lot of really valuable things about how to craft your adventures, not just from an individual encounter perspective, but from a stringing together the encounters into a big adventure perspective. If you're paying attention, you can also see how, if there is a bigger module story being told, how clues to that are dropped in at varying intervals, and how often those clues are given to you to keep you on that sort of same follow the breadcrumb path, right? So I think that they're invaluable, at the very least, to consult as references, even if you don't run one. And I'm a big believer in running one to begin with, or running parts of one to begin with, because, again, for the same reasons I've said. But at the very least, please go read those old modules, and I can give you a list of the ones, anything that was written from the UK series for old editions of D&D, and anything by Graeme Davis, old, like, 2nd through 3rd edition, as well as the 4th edition stuff for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Those are fantastic modules that give you some great clues about how to create and craft your stories as well as your plot lines.
That's great. Yeah, I know that pacing is a really integral thing to learn, especially depending on what kind of genre RPG you're running, right? So like Call of Cthulhu, for example, you have to get the pacing down right, because you can't just drop people into being insane,
Right.
I guess you can, but it doesn't build up, right? It's got to have good pacing to it.
Yeah, I think getting your characters invested in what's happening, right? Some of that teaches you some of that of, okay, so, and the reason, if you really kind of dissect it, the reason that you went to the village first is because by the time you get around to saving the village, you have to care about the village. Otherwise, no, don't care about the village. Let it burn. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. Right? The dragon's attacking. Yeah. Who cares? I mean, we should not go towards the dragon.
Yeah. Danger.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Danny, yeah, you're up, man. Modules versus your own stuff initially.
So this is what I think. If you're gonna try your hand at GMing and you're new at it and you're not, if you have a story that you want to tell, like this is the story I want to tell, and you're positive that's the story you want to tell it, like, do it. The worst that can happen is you'll learn, right? That's it. If you're kind of like, I kind of got the story I want to tell, but I'm not sure and I don't know, then hey, throw in a module, throw in a level 1 to 3 module, get the hang of it, see how the story flows, and then you can then run your idea after on top of that, or scrap it and start again. But that's kind of how I feel. If you really have a story and you're just raring to tell it, by all means, just make it happen, and you'll learn.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, you have to, if you're really excited about something, you're going to put the work into it, right? You're going to know everything about what you're excited about. So if you're super excited about something, I think it's going to be more valuable for the players as well, because they're going to know that you're excited about it. At least that's what I've experienced when I've, played with people that they're excited about what they're doing. You can really tell, right? Compared to, maybe another GM who's like, I guess we'll do this, because you asked me to.
Yeah, that energy helps build momentum as you kind of get further into your campaign.
Absolutely. Kindermage asks in the chat, Danny, how does this work when you write for your game? So you kind of use other modules as bases, I guess, is the question, or do you just kind of just go for a story that you want to write?
So it depends on what I'm writing for, right? Because as the developer for the missions line, I have to maintain a continuity of story and make sure we have products that come out for the people that play Shadowrun. And that process, it's a lot of brainstorming. It's a lot of looking at what's previously been written and just kind of making sure that what I'm putting together makes sense within the making sure that what I'm putting together makes right now. I am currently working making sure that what I'm putting together right now. I am started DMing some campaign right now. I started DMing some probably by the end of the year, maybe November. I think we'll be streaming this D&D campaign set in a world of my creation, and that. Steal. There's no new content. There's only innovative ways to put things together, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then you just kind of look at what you have going on, and if you need to, you fall back on a module, like reskin it. I say, you grab something and just you can kind of plug and play. If it's an undead themed romp through a haunted house, then change it into a demon themed romp through magma tunnels. It's you can just and the especially in Dungeons and Dragons, the CR ratings are all there, so you can almost just plug and play, and that can really work. So if necessary, if like I don't know, spent too much time scrolling through Facebook or TikToking or something, and I haven't made my map or something, I can just get my
steal some maps.
Yeah, maps, man. Take all of those things.
Never enough maps.
Make this map red, make the other one blue. They're the same map. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just rotate it in your image viewer, and now it's a whole new map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Genius. This way is north this time, guys.
You thought you knew this place.
Oh, man. All right. On to the next question here that we have. So interesting question that we received. It says, let's say, for instance, you got a group of players that they're very excited to play, but they all want to play the same class. Is that a problem for you guys? Do you think that's would you run with that? Would you try and discourage that?
So again, it depends, right? Like, are they bards?
That's someone in the chat just
Eric knows me. Kindermage knows me. Bard is best. Trademark.
Bard is best.
So it depends. So if it's all a session 0 thing. So if I want to, if we're a table that's been playing together for a while and we all decide, let's do a game where we're all, clerics of polarized deities and we have to do something or the whole world is just going to blow up. But so we have to work together. That could be a good time. If you're trying to run your really serious story that kind of, and you have some story beats or whatever in it, and everyone's like, yeah, we're going to all be drunken monks. Maybe you'll want to talk to them about it, So, we're going to play through the Ravenloft campaign, and we're all drunken monks. Yeah. Maybe talk about it a little bit, but.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't have a problem with that. I tend to be very much a yes and GM. If you ask me, if players ask me if they can do a thing, as long as it is something I can figure out, I can wrap my head around mechanically, making it work, 100%. Yep, you know what? Roll the dice. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And I have been one of the players with Shadowrun. The idiots that I play with most frequently. No, they are, and they know that, and it's fine. And I am including myself in that. I'm not separating myself from. I am one of the idiots. But the people that I play Shadowrun with, we've talked about doing just a bunch of effectively members of some union, pipe fitters union or something, where we don't optimize our characters. It's like, yeah, and then we can go just really, I think, so we can all go, I'm on break, and and not deal with whatever it is anymore. But we've talked about just doing kind of basic stuff like that, and I don't have a problem with it. If you wanted to play a group of bards with me, I would say yes. I have played in a group of all paladins before, and it was fantastic. Because everybody had a different spin on the whole paladin thing, and that was truly
I was going to
fun.
ask, is it different oaths, or were you all the same oath?
No, it was all different, and this is also the oath thing. You're talking about something that's very specific to 5th edition. Well, not exclusively, but paladins have all kinds of different flavors. And back in the day, you could be paladins or whatever you want them to be, and so you can be paladins and you can be death knights and so forth. And so we just had all different alignments. We were all paladins in different alignments. It was a riot of a time. Because then, of course, we would stop invariably. We'd have to stop in the middle of a fight and try to figure out who it was that actually was opposed to the big bad guy most over there. It's like, no, this one's mine. I'm calling dibs on this one. Right?
Yeah,
so I want to smite him.
That one. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know it's a riot. So I don't see a big problem with it. I mean, magic users, yeah, they get hefty at 7th level, but what, you can't call that before they get there, please?
Yeah, someone's going to
die
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so the systems that I've played in, like Monster of the Week or Fellowship, they discourage or explicitly disallow players from choosing the same playbook. And a lot of people think that this is because of some sort of like niche protection or something like that. But the actual creator of the original Apocalypse world has said that the reason he created that rule was so that the GM didn't have to print out more than one playbook when he was trying to get new people to play the game. So I think I agree completely with both of you guys that this is really just a conversation that needs to happen at the table. I think if everybody at the table wants to be a grimdark, brooding rogue or something, if everybody wants to kind of have the same shtick, then maybe you need to think, hey, how do you guys differentiate yourselves? But if everybody wants to be a bard or everybody wants to be a wizard, there's a lot of different types of wizards. There's a lot of different bards. Like, absolutely, you can have very different characters that happen to have the same class. It just depends on your setting, what you're comfortable with, and kind of how similar everyone's character, their kind of elevator pitch for their character. If they're all the same, maybe try something new, but otherwise, yeah, there's absolutely no reason it can't work.
Absolutely. Like you guys said, all going back to that all-important session 0 that is essential. And I think that's one of the main things that I've learned is it just from the little bit that I've GM'd and as I continue to do it, it's so important to get everybody together and just talk about what are you guys expecting out of this? What are you guys looking for? And then it's a cooperative storytelling experience, and most of the time, right? So we all have to be on the same page. We can't have the one person, I mean, in general, right? You don't really want to have the one person that's, well, I'm going to be the chaotic evil of the group. And it's like, well, then why are you in our group, though? It doesn't, no. Yeah. So, yeah, it definitely is important to make sure everyone's talking on the same page. Let's see here. Just moving on. So let's say we've got a group of players that are going along. Everybody's excited about it. They're playing through. And what inevitably happens on session 1 when you get started, they're not following the story that you had planned. What do we do? What's some advice here for some newer GM?
Yeah,
Flip the table. We're done. No, you guys need to go over there. No, the door's locked. What happens? Ben, you want to start with this one?
Yeah. So I think this is kind of a lot what we talked about with the previous question here. This is a conversation that needs to happen in session 0. Make sure your players are on the same page. Make sure everyone feels comfortable speaking about what they want to happen at the table. What are they looking for? What are they comfortable with? If you have a good session 0 where you talk about what your expectations are or what setting you're crafting, if you've got people that are just really not on board, maybe you need to look for another player, or maybe you need to work together to talk about, what would you like to see that's going to be different, that would really get you on board with what I'm trying to do? So I think that's really important, is just to kind of get some buy-in. And then I also think part of that too is just as a GM, you really need to just kind of follow the fun as well. I think if you have an idea for one thing, and then once it gets, once you start implementing it and actually trying it, if it's just not working, be comfortable making a change that people respond to. Your players are going to find something that excites them, and it might not be the same thing that excited you when you started putting things together. But if everyone is really drawing energy from one specific thing and it is just completely off the beaten path from what you have planned, that might be a chance for you to kind of step back and say, hey, is this thing that everyone's interested in, is that more fun than what I've been working on? Even if you've put a lot of time and energy in, maybe you need to make some changes. But it's another chance to start a conversation and say, hey, maybe we started doing this, but maybe this is actually what's fun and interesting to our characters.
Yeah, I would say that in addition to that, I mean, nothing. Let's say that you have this grand campaign that you've planned. You've written on it for you've got 3 notebooks, 3 of the college rule giant, 5 subject. Well, of course, college rule, because we're not animals. We're not going to use wide rule, please. But no, you got 3 of these big 5 subject notebooks, right? And you've got notes in there, and you've got NPCs for days, and you've done all this stuff, and you slap it down on the table. You get ready to roll your dice. Your players go, nah, you know what? Who does live in that cottage over there? And it's okay, right? Because nothing that you've done is wasted. That whole big stack of stuff, just because this particular set of players in this particular game are not into whatever it was you had planned, that is not a waste of time at all. Go with the flow, see what they want to do, and your work hasn't gone anywhere. And 9 times out of 10, they'll do their thing, and then you can always kind of steer them back to some of the stuff you've already got planned, right? Just pull an encounter out here and there now and again, it's fine. But I would say let them do what they want to do. I had a kid.
Play games.
Yeah, my one campaign my big campaign I've worked on for the last several years. I introduced this painting. It's a standard trope thing where there's a painting and they can see it's an animated painting, magically animated painting. But you can go into the painting, and truly it's once you get in there, you can't go much of anywhere. There's a field of wheat, and then there's a little cottage, and then there's dragons flying in the distance. They thought it was really cool, and they went to explore this painting. I had exactly this much written about what happened to that painting. I did not expect them to want to decide to live, to settle down in the cottage in this painting, so they could be farmers or whatever it was. But I let them explore that for a few days, and I made stuff up, and I pulled stuff from other places in the campaign and cobbled it together because that's where they wanted to go, and that's cool, man. They had a great time. So, and I did too, watching them, almost get stuck in the painting. That was fun. So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so I just, would caution you from adding things that you probably, don't want them to go and follow that thread. So don't put the cottage there. Don't introduce a cute little puppy. Don't put, put furniture in the room. Try to avoid doors because they'll probably want to go through.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Especially
Jerks.
if it's locked, because then they really want to go through it because it's locked.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want them to go through it, why'd you even put a door there? Really? Come on. So just your dungeon is just a 5-foot square straight line, about 1 by 500, and you're good. You're golden. They are gonna go where you want them to.
Yeah.
Barring that. You just gotta roll with it. You really do.
Yeah.
It's and if you're playing a module that is written, everyone should understand that we're playing a module. And so, if the module is fight the dragon queen, we're not gonna go wander down to the hill giants mountain range or whatever down the way. We're because that's not what we've in the thing. And if you do, and you're like, all right, well, we're not running that module, we're running this module instead, and then your contrarian players will decide to go somewhere else. But so if you're running a module, I would say, hey, there's sort of this tacit agreement at the table that we're playing the module. If it's your own content, my recommendation for your own content is just in your head, you just know what's going on. and I think I've said this before,
Yeah.
for a GM Zone of Truth, is you know what's going on, and those things are happening. So your players, if they decide to go to the witch swamp instead of the monk abbey, fine. Like Laura said, the monk abbey's still going to be there, and there was stuff happening at the witch swamp anyway, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't have made a witch swamp. Sure.
Right.
So, and even if there wasn't, I mean, you did make a witch swamp, so there are witches there. They must have been doing something. So that's just what they're doing. They're just doing their witch thing, and maybe it has nothing to do with the story, and that's fine too. And then the players will go there and be like, all right, well, I guess the little puppy didn't run this way after all. Go somewhere
He
else.
was so cute, though. I wanted to pet him
Yeah, he
and
was.
snuggle.
Oh, they never just want to pet him. They want to adopt him. They want to name
No,
him,
they want to
and they want
adopt.
to somehow make him into the sovereign lord of the
It's
land.
the Protect the
That's
Puppy campaign now. Yeah, this is the
It is.
journey. Is as long as the puppy's safe, everything's okay.
Yeah, the great escape or the great journey. What is it? The incredible
Yeah.
journey. That's what it's the incredible journey, but with just the one puppy.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
and a
it-
bunch of murder homos.
I mean, Mandalorian, those guys knew what they were doing
Oh,
when,
yeah.
they
Yeah, they
when they
did.
put in Baby Yoda.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a cute puppet, and everyone's gonna love it. And it's just the real secret to everyone's heart is a real cute puppet.
And that's where the story's going, and no one has complained yet.
yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
As
you
long
didn't
as
imagine
Baby
that.
Yoda's
You
there,
thought-
I'm on board.
You thought Mandalorian, you're gonna like space fights and
Nah.
battles, and he's gonna like go bounty hunting people. Yeah,
No, it's Adventures in
Baby Yoda.
Babysitting. That's what it is. Adventures in
Yeah.
Babysitting in space.
Yep.
Yeah, in
Right,
season
that's-
2, he gets the little like, strap that he can hold on his chest, and Baby Yoda's there the whole time.
The
He
baby, the
switches
baby
out
Yoda
his rifle
Bjorn.
strap for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
baby strap.
Yeah, rifle on the back, baby on the front. It's fine.
You don't want to mix
Fantasy-
those up though.
fantasy
Is the
world.
thing, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely, guys. I think it all comes back to being, comfortable with the setting that you're running and just following the fun. And you're gonna have to make up stuff, right? So you have to know what's going on in your world, so that when they go over there, this is what's going on. You already know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say next question. So you have the one player in your group that tries to do everything. They try to do the bartering, they try to do the fighting, they try to do the sweet talking, they try to do all of the things, and the quarterback mentality, I guess. How do you guys deal with that? Or what's some advice for new people on dealing with the quarterback situation?
Wrap their knuckles with the ruler.
Yes.
Ooh, wait, hey, I'm gonna write that down. Yeah.
Afterwards,
Now,
bad, right?
The person who taught me most about GMing is the guy who owns Tabletop, Phil Kilgore. He's a good friend, and he when I decided I wanted to start GMing, he's kind of walked me through stuff. And one of the things that he said was, it's some good advice I've used since then, which is you just have to keep the spotlight moving. So when somebody tries to take over and do all the things, it's perfectly fine to say, let's put a pin in that. Let me figure out what everybody else wants to do. And that gives other people, that doesn't entirely shut them down, but it puts a pause on it. And if you do that consistently and make sure that you're taking everybody's temperature and saying, what do you guys want to do? Where are we? What are you going to do? I feel like that helps keep them aware of the fact that they're doing I want to do all the things without sort of being too in your face and without totally shutting them down and making them feel like they can't attempt things. And another thing is, I think, what is the intent of what they're trying to do? Because if what they're trying to do is to truly do all the things, that's one thing. If they've got a character they're playing where he knows he's terrible at these things, but he's like playing into the idea of, no, I want to do all the things, that's a different story too than the guy who's really trying to roll, or the gal, the person who's trying to roll all the dice. So that's my take on it.
I think that what you said is perfect. In Fellowship, it is literally called Swing the Spotlight. The rules for that game system explicitly state how you need to pass the spotlight to other players when someone's put in danger or put on the spot. You need to move the spotlight to them and kind of give them a chance to shine. When I'm running a game, I really think of it like I'm watching it in a movie or like a TV show. And a lot of movies or TV shows will have an A plot and a B plot. And you've got, while characters are doing one thing, you reach the height of excitement, and then you cut to what are the other characters doing while this is happening. So Luke, Han, and Leia are over here in a shootout with the stormtroopers. Cut to what are R2-D2 and C-3PO doing. So, if you've got a player that's being more quiet, give them a chance to kind of do something. And I think the key phrase here is, while that's happening, what are you doing? And that kind of gives them a chance to say, if you think about R2D2 or C3PO, like, oh, there's shooting going on. They're not going to get involved in the shooting. They know they're not good at it. It's not their personality to really get involved, but they're never just doing nothing. So, your players, maybe they're just a little bit more shy and they need you to hand them the spotlight to really feel comfortable kind of taking the lead for a moment. Or maybe their character just doesn't feel like they don't feel like their character can add value. So by giving them a chance, like, okay, they're fighting, but what are you doing? That gives them a chance to be, oh, what am I doing? How can I affect this situation to help people, even if what's really happening right now is maybe not what I'm good at?
Right. And sometimes, I wasn't kidding, sometimes you just do say to your player, like, hey, knock it out. And that usually comes with if they're people that you've played with before, how long the table's been going, and maybe your personal relationship with people. Like if you're doing an open table at your local gaming store to have people come in, maybe that's not the appropriate time to do that, and then you try to kind of go with the other sort of tips and tricks. If you do have a problem player at those sorts of events, and it's consistent and it keeps happening, there does come a point where you say, you're not welcome at the table anymore, right? That would probably be the last thing. Maybe you talk to them, take them aside beforehand, talk to them about their behavior. But as the GM, it is your responsibility to make sure that everyone is having a good time. And if one person is stopping everyone from having a good time, that has to be fixed. So if we're getting into like problem player area, right? But like I have in a D&D game I've been running it for about 2 years now, and we're really comfortable. And sometimes one of the players will start getting carried away and start kind of telling people what they should be doing. And I'll just say, hey, knock it off. Like they're gonna do what they want to do. And he just, oh yeah, I was doing that, my bad, and he backs off.
Yeah, I think some of that actually has to do with maybe I could be wrong, Danny, but one of my experiences with Shadowrun is it feels like the people in Shadowrun are consistently sort of better, and I don't know if it's an experience level of players or what, but I feel like they're consistently mostly better about that. But Shadowrun also has very distinct roles, right? There are combat characters and there are talking characters and there are casting, what I mean? It's really very kind of distinct lines for the most part around characters. And when we were at every time I've been to a big con, Gen Con, Origins, what have you, even at tables of 8 people, you've got 8 people in a Shadowrun game. And it still was people, when it was time to talk, I would step forward and do my face thing, and then when it was time to fight, I stepped back, and people did exactly the same thing with their roles as well. It tended to be, can I assist you? If not, I stay out of the way. It's interesting to me that I think that the games that have the starker lines drawn around roles, it kind of helps people understand, oh, it's my turn to be in the spotlight now, and then maybe it's an easier to back off thing, because you don't feel like you have to be involved in everything.
I agree with you, and I think that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, as a player, too, it helps when you as a player know, what is my character good at? What is my character bad at? Like, when is my time to step forward? When is my time to, when is this somebody else's thing?
Yeah, and what I was going to say about this sort of actually outlines one of the differences between Shadowrun and D&D 5th edition. Shadowrun is, it is not built to be played on like a battle map, like an actual tactical map. It's very much written to be more theater of the mind. So like the movement rules don't really make, pardon me, a whole lot of sense if you were to use a battle map, and ranges are really big and stuff. In D&D 5e, it's written for you to use a battle map. Everyone has the same amount of move, and so there's a lot more like sort of tactical RPG elements, right? So there are in Shadowrun, we might not know the exact best way because there's 500 ways to skin a cat, and they're all a good time. But in D&D, there's definitely, people have definite ideas about what's the best way to approach a fight, what are the best spells to use in a given situation, etc. So then what happens is you'll have somebody who the most recent one was, I have a player that plays a Goliath. he has a battle axe. He likes his battle axe. That's in his head. It's a battle axe. They found a greatsword that was magic, and so but it's not an axe. And so when they were getting into this fight, the one player just kept telling him, "No, use the greatsword, use the greatsword, use the greatsword." And I finally had to be like, he doesn't want to use the greatsword. Shut up.
He likes his axe.
You know, and that's his role play, and that's what he wants to do. But because the greatsword is better, the one player who's more tactically minded was confused about why you wouldn't use the better weapon. And so I think that happens a lot more in games that have that more tactical sort of thing going on.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, there's definitely the different kinds of players, and you got to come together and just either understand that you guys are different and give each other the spotlights at your time, so you can do your tactical thing and they can do their role play thing, or maybe just might not be a good time to play together if you guys have different objectives at that time.
Right.
Or you just make them arm wrestle each other at the table.
Yeah, there you go.
Work it out.
Hey, Chase, there's a really good question in the chat.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Oh, perfect.
I asked. No, thank you. Are people who usually game master or dungeon master, are they better or worse at being players in your experience?
Yes.
And right, and then on that, how, I guess in your personal experience, how has being a GM/DM, how has that changed what you do as a player? So are GMs better or worse, and then how has it affected you being a GM and then playing in new games?
It's a really loaded question.
I know. I know.
An attack
Are
right
you
now.
afraid of answering it, Danny? Is that what's happening? All right, you know what? I will take this bullet. I am absolutely a better player since I started jamming. I think that it brought to my attention some things I had been doing, especially in terms of trying to do things and so forth. I am much more cognizant of the fact that other people are at the table with me. That I don't know what that says about my character before I became a GM, but I'm willing to own that and say, yeah, I think that I'm certainly not better as in more skilled. I'm a more social and fun to play with player, I think, probably since becoming a GM. That is certainly true. As far as now, with the caveat that means when I'm in public and in like the general population, that is true. I behave better. Now, I also now have bigger access to grind with people when I sit down at a table with people that I know, where I'm like, oh, so let's talk about what happened 16 sessions ago, shall we? Hang on while I spend the next 2 hours talking to this fox. Go. Right? So, turn around is fair play.
Yes.
Right?
The
Yeah.
answer is yes. Are they better or worse? Yes.
Yeah, you're right, Danny. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends, if there are people that I will play with. I've got a good friend, and he, when we're playing any sort of like board game, he's really competitive and he's really about the rules and he really wants to win. And now he's kind of jamming for the first time, and yeah, we bust his chops again and again and again and again, and it's mostly in good fun. And then we kind of talk about maybe what he could have done different or how kind of to maneuver people through. But if it's if I'm sitting down at a table to play and there's and it's just a normal sort of game, I tend to try to create situations for other players, and I think that GMs do that a lot. They understand how the movement across the table and the interpersonal sort of relationships work, and they will build stuff to kind of help other people highlight themselves, and to and in that way they can be better players, and also kind of helping the GM without stepping on the GM, right? So if there's a rules question or something, like that player can help get that answer so the GM can just keep pushing the game forward. But there are some people whose personalities will become more confrontational, even if it's not someone they're comfortable with. And then in that case, GMs can be worse. And it really just depends on the person.
Yeah, I think my experience has been limited enough in that the GMs that I've played with, are also players as well. So my experience is kind of mixed in that they kind of do both. So it's hard for me to just distinguish between somebody that's an experienced GM, because the people that I've played with that are experienced GMs are also experienced players. So they were definitely picking up things faster just because they're more comfortable playing role-playing games, because GMing experience is still experience. I think since I have started running games, I think it's made me a better player, just because I think players kind of fall into kind of two categories, in that they're either extremely risk adverse or they're completely reckless. They'll either spend like an hour walking through an empty hallway that is just a hallway and just go through the hallway, it's fine.
One rock in there.
Like, yeah, we're just gonna like take off all their clothes.
It's a suspicious rock.
Yeah, it's a very suspicious hallway. And like, it's just a hallway, guys. It's just a hallway. So they're either going to be way overly cautious, or they're going to be completely and totally reckless. They're just going to like take off all their clothes and jump into a cave full of monsters, screaming, and challenge you to make a bad thing happen. So I think as a player, kind of realizing since I've been GMing and kind of seen how people fall into those categories, as a player, I tend to focus more on what the GM's intent is. So I try to tell, where are they putting their energy or focus? What are they trying to get me to pay attention to, or, not pay attention to? So as a player, I kind of now know, oh, this is maybe not as big of a deal as we're making it out to be, or we're not paying attention to a thing that we clearly need to be paying attention to. I tend to notice those things more. And I try to figure out kind of what my job is on the in the team, and kind of make sure I'm playing that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Those are really good points, guys. I think it's, for me personally, I feel like I'm a better player as well. If you get better feel for the rules, but also you get a better feel for how people interact, and how you want to give everyone their spotlight, and you want to make sure that you're also trying to go along with what the GM planned, because they did plan it, right? So you can go off and do your thing for a little bit, but also okay, I won't do this crazy thing, because as a GM, I know that you put the time into this, so I'm gonna go along with the thing, right? So I think
you develop a respect for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of going along with the sneaking down the hallway, taking an hour thing, right? How do you guys deal with just, how do I want to put this? How do you guys deal with consequences? So like, you guys are in a situation, your players are in a situation, you guys are playing through the game, you're in a situation, and they say something, either like, oh, I run and attack him, or like I say this really awful thing to his face. It's like, do you actually say that? Like, at what point for you guys is it in the game and I'm just joking, this would be really funny if I did that? And how do you deal with the consequences for that?
Well, yeah. Danny, you
Danny,
obviously have a story. I want to hear Danny's answer desperately right now.
I love this question. So it depends on how fun it is for you as the GM, if they did say that or they're only thinking it, right?
Yeah.
So if they like, man, I just run in and like hit him, and I'm like, whoa,
right,
maybe that's not a good idea. Then I'm like, so you're gonna like run in there and hit him, and they usually get it. And then if they really want to do it, they'll do it, right? Yeah. But if I'm like, oh boy,
yes.
So you run in and swing your sword. They're like, whoa, no, and I was like, that's what you said.
Yeah, it is.
And they do it, and that's what happens. So that part of it is it really just depends on how I'm feeling, and I will cop to that. And my players, they generally should know. Other sorts of consequences, like just things that maybe it wasn't just like something stupid that they were doing, but just doing in the game, and then like something bad happens. I guess it really depends again on the type of game you're running. If you know that you're running a game with a tight-knit crew and everything, maybe you want to kind of treat a little softly. If they're just this is the dangerous dungeon, you all knew that going in, then that's what happens is what happens. So
I tend to. I had my conversation with my players at the outset because, again, coming at this from a storytelling perspective, I believe in there being consistent rules and so forth. And so I told them up front, look, guys, if you do things, there is an effective police force in this world, and the fact is that there are people who travel along roads and things like that. So word's going to get out. If you do things, people are going to hear about it. There are consequences to your actions. So just bear that in mind. As you do things. And they all said, yeah, we get it. They didn't get it. And because of course they didn't get it. And so the first time that I imposed the content where a thief got arrested, who would arrest a thief, right? But no, the first time a thief got arrested, they went, whoa, right? So I told you guys. So I do tend to impose consequences, and even if they do things, in my head I know what's happening, and so if they do something that has an impact 3 cities away, they deal with that later. I file it away and they deal with it later. And at first, they were very resistant. My players were very resistant to that. They hated the fact that this is just too real. Yeah, it's, it is what it is. And now they actually appreciate it because there's a sense of, okay, no, now they think through what's going to happen. It doesn't change anything. They still burn the inn down, right? They still steal all the stuff. They still accidentally blow up the church or whatever, but they're cool with the fact that something's gonna happen as a result of this, and we'll figure it out when we get there. So
yeah, I think the most dangerous words a GM can say is, "You can certainly try."
Yeah. or can you describe exactly what that looks like?
Tell me, can you run in and punch him? Is that what you said?
It's that tone, though. It's that tone, because oh, you can certainly try. That's different.
Yeah.
I think what you said, Laura, like, consistency is important. Like, if you're setting up rules of a world, be consistent. Like, I tend to have a lot of room for humor and slapstick in my games. Mm-hmm. My Monster of the Week campaign, they really enjoyed heckling and interrogating any people they ran across to just kind of give them a hard time and be rowdy, and that was just really fun. And you can be kind of slapstick and kind of crazy with stuff. But if you're building a more serious setting, that's another thing. We keep talking about the importance of session 0 and setting expectations. This is part of that too. But consequences, whether good or bad, are part of what make tabletop gaming fun. We're not playing. We're playing a game that's that's supposed to be kind of open, or at least a little bit, and you're supposed to have agency. So part of that agency is facing consequences for your action. So I think part of that, as a GM, especially for a longer campaign, is taking good notes. If your players go out of their way to save, that villager farmhand, okay, well, make sure he has a name. Give him a name when that becomes relevant. Write that down, and maybe there's a situation where they can run into this character later. Maybe you have your collection of generic NPCs they maybe need to talk to. Maybe it's someone they've already met. Maybe it's somebody they saved before. Maybe it's somebody they wronged before. They decided, we're just having fun. We're just going to steal this guy's stuff and go run and do our own thing, and that'll be fine. It can be interesting and fun to bring that back. And oh man, if we hadn't set off that alarm, this would have been a lot easier. So let players have agency, keep good notes, try to bring things back, and that's part of what makes it all fun.
Yeah, the bringing things back, I mean, that's one of the most exciting things when you're just like, you're going along, it's like, wait, we know this guy. Wow,
this is the guy
we punched him in the face. Oh, he's got a big axe now. That's not good.
Yeah,
he's mad.
Oh, that is not good. And I think one of the best things, at least that I've experienced, is that when people say, that you bring up the situation, you describe what's going on, and they say the thing that first comes to their mind, that's the thing that's fun for them, right? At least in my mind. So I'm like, okay, then do the thing, whatever. I mean, there might be consequences, but if that's what's fun for you, you don't have to be like, no, I'm just, no, we don't have to do that. I'm like, just do it. Yeah. In fact, you did it. Surprise.
Yep. Yeah. You're not trapping players and saying, oh, you said it already. You don't make people afraid to talk and make a joke. But if you seriously want to do this, make the stakes clear, make the consequences clear. Like, this is a thing. You are free to make this choice. That is the agency you have in this game. but know that I'm giving you a chance to reconsider. Maybe this is a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm playing through. I started recently with a group of brand new people, never played tabletop role playing at all, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot of their questions are, "Can I do this?" I'm like, "You can literally do anything you want to do. I'll just tell you what happens when you try to do it."
You can try anything.
Yeah.
Can I cast a spell? You can try.
Absolutely.
All right, nope, you're a fighter, so nothing happens. But
Yeah,
you tried.
Good try.
You gave it a go.
Good attempt.
A for effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so situation. Have you guys ever planned out this huge? Oh, actually, before I get in, Kindermage has another question. How do you come up with names for generic NPCs that players didn't necessarily have to talk to? You guys have a system for that? That's a very good question, and it's a really important one. You got to have at least. Sorry, I'll let you guys talk. How do you deal with the NPC name generation? Danny?
If it's not an NPC that I have a real attachment to what their name is, I'm just gonna go Google fantasy name generator and hit generate 50 names at a time.
Yep.
And that will do it for you. If it's somebody that I am attached to, then I will probably spend way too much time trying to find like some derivative, etymological like source of a word. And right now we've got in the campaign that I'm running, I've got the languages created. Vulgar language generator allows you to kind of create the conlangs and stuff. And so for the elves, I'm taking that same sort of idea of elves. Their surnames are like an adjective from their father's surname and then the noun from their mother's surname, right? So you have things like evening meadow and dark tree or whatever, shining sword or whatever. But I'm using the language, so then we get these sort of names that come out, and it's doing the same thing, but they're different, so you don't get that right away. So like her character's name is Rosalia Vukistar, and Vukistar means black cloud, right? So, and it just takes a long time to do that because you care about the NPC and you want them to have a cool name. That's what we do for you players.
Yeah, we do a lot of Googling. Just so that you know, if you were curious about the sacrifices that we make, it involves a lot of Googling, much typing.
Lots of Googling.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot of stuff though too at the same time.
No, you do, right? How many rabbit holes have you fallen down trying to find some random elf's name? But ooh, look at this. Did you know that there were there's an entire currency based on dandelions in Denmark in 2070? Holy cow. Yeah, but there are also some great references. There's some great resources. There are several books of fantasy names. I think that Gary Gygax even has a book that you can find still in electronic format, at least, of like the big book of fantasy names. I'll have to go find what the actual name of the reference is. But I kind of keep those, and what I did was you can find names by heritage. So I decided I based one section of my continent on Wales. So I went and found a bunch of Welsh first and last names and just typed 20 of them. No, not Wales. Jiminy Christmas. Yes, they're all named like Big Blowhole, and it's fantastic. No, but I've got a yes, Big Blowhole and Little Blowhole. It's a family name. So no, I have like 20 first name for women, 20 first name for males, and like 20 last names. I'll just cobble them together as I go, so I can just go cross that one off, cross that one off. Yes, her name is Sylvania Rasmussenov or whatever, and that's nice. That one's now gone. So Rasmussenov, yeah, that's another family name. So
yeah, I usually try to keep a couple names on hand in my notes, just because inevitably you're gonna have to pull somebody out of thin air. And to not have to pull something up and pull up a generator. That name usually comes from a generator, but I usually try to have a few handy. Otherwise, I try to be pretty comfortable with my players and just tell them, what should we call this guy? Hey, they're gonna know you didn't have a whole backstory for this guy planned, but you only need to come up with what's relevant in that moment. So, feel free to lean on your players if they're the type of players that are comfortable kind of helping you co-create the kind of world that you're building, especially if you're trying to do something yourself. Just it's okay to just tell them like, what should we name this guy? Like, let's just come up with something so I can quit saying, the security guard over there. What's his name tag say? Like, let's just come up with one. And usually they'll come up with something ridiculous, and then they'll remember it because they came up with it. So that I tend to do that. But otherwise, I usually at least have a couple handy to just so that if I'm put on the spot, I can grab something real quick without having to slow down the game. Or let everybody know that this wasn't all magically planned in advance, and that sometimes I make things up on the spot.
Yeah, because otherwise you do fall into that Boblin the Goblin trap, right? That's how I have a beholder named Gary and an owl bear named Eddie, right? That is exactly why I have those two things.
Gary and
Eddie.
Bob, Edward.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's a lot of people, monsters, and things in my various worlds that are named Fred.
Fred,
they're all Fred.
Gary Gary comes up quite a bit. Yeah. But Eddie the owlbear and Gary the beholder. So.
Yeah, I think Ben, what you said is one of your points there is just asking the players. One of the cool things I learned from just reading and playing through Tales from the Loop RPG is very cooperatively storytelling based, and it 100% encourages you as the person running the game to say, hey player, what scene are you in? Like give me the situation here. Who's there with you? If you're in school, what's your teacher's name? What's your best friend's name? Help me with that, because if they feel like they have if they're putting the input in, then they're going to feel more attached to it, and they're going to want to, they're going to feel more attached to the whole thing. So I think it's really good. With the NPCs. On the NPCs, what is everybody's favorite NPC they've ever created?
Oh, wow.
Go for it, Ben. You smiled real fast. You did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think a lot of GMs might have a similar story, just in that it's never the one that you spent all the time on and thought for weeks and like schemed and planned. It's always the guy you pulled out of the hat to fill one thing, and then that one puppy that you accidentally mentioned, and now the party's dragged it the whole time. So in my Monster of the Week campaign, early on, one of my hunters played a playbook called The Professional. And that playbook is geared around being a member of a monster hunting agency. You're the professional. You get paid to go hunt monsters. And one of their moves is called Deal with the Agency. And that can be anything from getting equipment to asking a favor or finding out information. And he liked to use it a lot as kind of a, phone a friend. Hey, we found monster acid on the ground. It looks like this. It's got footprints shaped like this. What am I dealing with here? So the first time he used that move, and I hadn't thought, who's on the other end of the phone, I kind of quickly came up with, and I just had okay, just picturing like a support call center kind of guy. In my head, I was imagining kind of a cool Jeff Goldblum type of scientist that's kind of zany, kind of weird, but he really just came across as just a total nerd that provided information to them. And they thought he was so much fun. They called him up all the time after that. They would tease him constantly. They thought that was fun. He became a beloved character that they eventually wanted to bring out in the field with them and train to be a monster hunter like them. So he kind of ended up being more like, if anyone's familiar with the Adoring Fan in Elder Scrolls Oblivion, just a huge gushing nerd that follows the heroes everywhere. And they just thought that was great. So he just kind of came out of nowhere on the fly, but it was Roger, who was the support center guy for this monster hunting organization.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah, everyone needs a guy in a chair.
Yeah. So that was his role, and he came out of nowhere in the spur of the moment and just kind of became a beloved character.
That is awesome.
It is. Laura, do you have a character?
I do. So I started to say there's this elf who I super love, and I love the concept of him from the beginning. But then I realized that my favorite was not actually this super cool elf. It's this guy named Farley, Farleigh, just so we're clear. But Farley is this wizard. He's a city wizard in this town that's sort of it's sort of like Vatican City. Where it's the church is in charge, but it's there because it started as this mining town. And you don't need the whole history, but the point is, there's this city wizard named Farley, And what's cool about him is I invented him as he truly was just a convey information guy, right? The whole point was he occasionally needs to tell the players things. And so they would go to Farley when they want information. But the problem is that the players immediately latched onto him as being this like, no, we really love Farley. And Farley has seen every stupid thing that the players have ever done. And he's gotten to the point where when they come to him with something, he's all like, okay, wait, hold up, right? He's kind of like, what is happening here now? And at one point, they got into the situation where the Farley was delivering a message, and he walked into this room just as they were trying to put this elf chick in a sack. and he had this moment, he goes, nah, I don't want to know. Shut the door and waited outside. Because he wanted no part of whatever was happening inside that room. But that he's my favorite because he's become this jaded, cynical, just, all right, guys, whatever's happening, don't tell me, just what do you need? So I love him for that. So yeah.
There are so many NPCs. My favorite one to write for that I didn't make up, we've talked about on this in previous, is Sid Gambetti. I love writing for Sid Gambetti. He's basically a greasy sort of mook, trying to get involved in the underworld and get involved in shadowy stuff, but really he's just kind of this, he's just this slime ball, and I really enjoy writing him into various modules and stuff. So that's one of my favorite NPCs, but I didn't make him up. As far as NPCs I've made, I really just don't know. There's a fixer for the Neo Tokyo that I really like because just sort of the background stuff that I brought in. There's a Yakuza guy, but I don't know. There's so many NPCs. I don't think I can pick a.
You said you've been
favorite.
GMing for you said 30 years? Is that
30
years?
Right?
30 years.
9 years old I started. So.
I cannot even imagine the amount of NPCs you've gone through. So
yeah. That's a lot.
There's a lot. So yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So the things that I like about NPCs, it's what really gets them to grow is that player interaction. I think that's why a lot of the stories about it's just some random guy, right? Because a lot of times you have a plan for your NPC, but when you don't necessarily, it's that guy that just kind of got introduced and then everyone latches on, then that sort of the stories kind of grow around that character, and then that is what makes them memorable and sort of kind of become everyone's favorite. And yeah, that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many NPCs, and whenever it's just kind of like we've been talking about the whole time. You get whatever's rolling for the players, whatever's fun for them. That's what becomes important, and that's what you got to roll with. So, so we should start kind of wrapping up here. We're getting closer to time being done. So I'm going to wrap up with one question. I have one more question. If we get any more in the chat, we'll try and address those. But my last question for you guys tonight is: if there was what is one thing you wish someone had told you about GMing before you started doing it? Do you have a single piece of advice that you could think about? If we haven't already covered it, you can restate if you want. But single sage wisdom advice.
I'll say I'm still a very new GM, but I think what would have at least helped me out kind of getting started, or what I have kind of had to maybe learn the hard way, I guess, is that over preparing can be just as bad as under preparing. You're never going to think through every possible situation, and especially as somebody that's new, I don't know if you're probably going to be a little bit nervous. I know I definitely was. And it's easy to channel that nervousness by just trying to imagine everything that will happen and write down, 1,000 NPCs and all of these things and imagine all their stories and try to create this world in a way that you know it inside and out, so that you know everything that can happen, so that when you start playing, you're ready to go. And it is definitely possible and easy to overdo that, because you can never prepare for every situation. Players are going to think differently than you are. They're going to latch on to things that you think are irrelevant, and they're going to ignore things that you put blinking signs around. You're never going to think through every situation. You're never going to plan enough NPCs. Eventually, you're going to have to make things up, and eventually you're going to have to improv on the fly. So rather than try to prepare everything, it's instead better to, be comfortable being a little out of control, understand that you're going to have to make things up, you're going to have to be flexible, and you're going to have to improv eventually. They're going to go off the grid no matter how much you plan, so don't try to plan everything. Leave gaps, leave blanks, don't wear yourself out trying to imagine every scenario. Get a decent idea for how things are going to go, kind of what you kind of need to have ready. It takes a little bit to, I think, get the feel for that, but definitely don't just wear yourself out trying to imagine everything, because it's not going to work.
Absolutely. Alcohol helps with the nerves.
That's you can't really argue with that. So.
Yeah. Laura, what you got?
I think that probably, if I'm being completely transparently honest, people did try to tell me this, but I wasn't hearing them because, of course I wasn't. But I think when people told me that the rules weren't that important, and that's not to say rules aren't important, but I think I kept, lots of people tried to tell me that it was not all that important that I know every single rule and sub-point and, cross-reference from 13 other books and whatever. In my head, I felt like I had to know all of those things. And it turns out that most of the time it's not really all that relevant. You can absolutely hand wave and come back to it later. And I think that for me, that was one of my biggest hang-ups that it took me far longer than it should have to get over, is that it's okay. You don't have to have the answers to everything, right? Meaning when it comes to specific rules, you can absolutely say, you know what, that's cool. Here's how it's working right now. And you can get past kind of all the things that would be a hang-up, because the most important thing is to keep playing the game. It's not to get hung up in a rules argument that takes 10 people 3 hours to go through 30 books to figure out. It's not worth that. This is how it's working right now. Let's move on. And I really wish I had embraced that sooner in the process, because it would have saved me many heartaches, I think, early on.
You want to keep that momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the pace, about the momentum. I mean, if we're stopping for rules for 30 minutes, then nobody's playing, and that's not fun. Kindermate says, "Don't worry about the rules. Gary, the rules lawyer, will know it and look it up for you."
That is also true. Somebody at the table invariably does know that, and that's when you have to get into the whole cool. But we're doing this right now, right? Yeah, he totally can fly. Stop it.
You look it up. We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening this way this time. You look it up, so next time we'll do it whatever's the right way.
Yeah.
We all learn. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game.
Yeah.
If I had one piece of advice that I would have told myself, so I do it now, and we actually touched on it earlier. It is to cannibalize whatever you can. Again, I spent so much time trying to make up new things that this is going to be the new thing, or feeling like this isn't good enough because it's super tropey and everything, and so there's a lot of anxiety with that, and there was a lot of wasted time in preparation and stuff, and at the end of the day, really just we want to play a game, and the real source of the joy of the story is that we're all involved, right? So it's not you just telling a story. You're not sitting there and reading a book or what have you. So it doesn't matter that it's not the newest, greatest story ever told. What matters to them is that they get to be in it by proxy of their characters.
Yep.
So yeah, just take things. Don't worry about if it's derivative. Let it be derivative. Just pick 3 things and mash them together, and you have a new thing. And just go with it, because otherwise you'll spin your wheels a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for everybody's input this evening, and it's been fun for me to just be able to chat with you guys a little bit, and hopefully it's been fun for everyone that's watched or will watch in the future. Thanks, chat, for everybody that's joined in and was chatting with us. Appreciate everybody tuning in. we're going to go ahead and get wrapped up for the evening. And I do believe we're going to continue doing these. We'll have different people on, talking about different things as far as GMing goes, specific topics sometimes. Other times we'll just get on and chat. So that's it for tonight. And thanks for joining in, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.